Hey guys, I'm back for video article number 2. Video article number 1 was on Tyler Lyons. In case you missed that, you can find it under my author page at birdsontheblack.com. Before I get into the topic of this article, I want to first talk about how excited I am to be a part of birdsontheblack.com, which came from the mind of Cardinals Gifts. You can follow Cardinals Gifts on Twitter at Cardinals Gifts. We launched last Friday on Black Friday, and since then, the reception we've received has been tremendous. People are really excited about what we've already been able to put out, and I hope that they look forward to what else we're going to be able to create the rest of this off season and going into the 2018 season. I use the word create instead of write because I feel like we are truly a unique site. We've got video, we've got GIFs, we've got graphs, we've got stats, we've got rumors, we've got basically everything, and I feel like it's a little bit different than just your typical blog site, and I hope that you are as excited about it as we are. So getting into the topic of this article, it goes in line with a post that I recently published at the site called Solving Carlos Martinez's Struggles versus Left-Handed Hitters. Since 2015, or when Carlos Martinez became a full-time starting pitcher, it's known nationally that he has dealt with his fair share of struggles against left-handed hitters. This isn't at all the case against right-handed hitters. As the right-handed throwing Martinez, there's only been 5 starting pitchers that have been more effective against righties since the beginning of 2015, and that's Max Scherzer, as you'd expect, Clayton Kershaw, who's the best pitcher on the planet, Corey Kluber, Jake Arrieta, and Kyle Hendricks. That's a tremendous group of pitchers to be included with, so Carlos Martinez really shouldn't be focused too much on trying to get that much better against righties. He needs to just keep doing what he's already been doing, because to move up on that list, while possible, is not as realistic as simply getting a little bit better against left-handed hitters, because since 2015, he's been essentially league average against left-handed hitters, which league average isn't that bad, especially when you're outstanding against righties. But we consider him, we being the fan base, consider him the ace of the pitching staff, and if he wants to take that next step forward, he's going to have to be able to improve in some way. And the way that I believe he can improve is by becoming better against left-handed hitters. So great. That's pretty easy. This video article and my article that I published is pretty much over. He just needs to get better. No, it's not that easy. You need to be able to come up with a reason and a specific method or approach that he can utilize in order to be better. And basically, before we get into that, we need to diagnose the problem. Basically, before you fix something, you need to figure out what's wrong. And the biggest thing that we are seeing with Carlos Martinez is his sinker. So last season alone, he throws a 4-seamer, a sinker, a changeup, and a slider. He throws a curveball a little bit, but he doesn't throw it enough to even consider it. The 4-seamer, changeup, and slider were all pretty effective against lefties, with the slider being the most effective. The sinker, on the other hand, had a batting average against of 461, a slugging percentage of 632, and an isolated power of 171. That is not good. If you're a hitter, that's awesome, but Carlos Martinez isn't a hitter, he's a pitcher. So immediately, and something I saw on Twitter was, scrap the sinker entirely. It's not working for him, whatever. That's not gonna happen. Carlos Martinez, while he is a strikeout pitcher, he's also a ground ball pitcher. The sinker is a big component to his ground balls. He can't, and then go to just the slider and the 4-seamer, the slider or just the changeup. Well, unfortunately, those pitches don't tunnel or sequence as well when you don't have a sinker in the mix. So the sinker isn't going anywhere. He just needs to work on locating it a little bit better. And what do I mean by locating it a little bit better? I used Fangraphs Splits Tools leaderboard to be able to find some pitchers that also throw sinkers to see what they do to be effective against left-handed hitters. And some of the pitchers that I found were Corey Kluber, Luis Castillo, who's built in pretty much the same mold as Carlos Martinez, Charlie Morton, and Kyle Hendricks. They were all very effective. Their weighted on base average against lefties is in the 260 or lower range. Remember, Carlos Martinez is at 337 last season, so that is a big jump from where he was. And basically, what I was able to find out is when they threw their sinkers, they located the sinker on the inside part of the plate way more than Carlos Martinez did. In fact, Carlos Martinez on the inside part of the zone using brooksbaseball.net, he located his sinker 14.81% of the time last year. The high of that group of pitchers that I just listed, Corey Kluber located on the inside 36.71% of the time, Luis Castillo 21.83% of the time, Charlie Morton 19.47% of the time, and Kyle Hendricks 26.84% of the time. So basically, that's a pretty big gap between Corey Kluber and Charlie Morton, but even the low in Charlie Morton was still considerably higher than Carlos Martinez's 14.81%. So what do I mean by he needs to locate it on the inside of the part of the plate more? Why do I think that is something that he should be doing? Well, I looked on baseballsavant.com, which basically is a way that you can do StatCast searches, and on sinkers by right-handed pitchers to left-handed hitters on the outside part of the plate but still in the strike zone, the expected weighted on-base average was 373. The expected weighted on-base average on sinkers on the inside of the plate but still in the strike zone was 308. That is a very big difference, and that's a zone that Carlos Martinez isn't currently attacking as frequently as other pitchers who are experiencing success against left-handed hitters. And going along with just the weighted on-base average, the exit velocity also shows that it's higher on sinkers outside than it is on sinkers inside. And before I get any further, because I'm going to answer some questions or basically discuss some comments that people left on my article, I want to talk about some of the gifts that I was able to ask Cardinals Gifts to create for me. The first one being the Seth Smith double. That sinker was a 95.2 mile an hour sinker with over 10 inches of horizontal movement on it. It was located very well horizontally, and yet he was able to launch it into the left field corner for a double. If you bring that pitch onto the inside of the corner or the inside part of the plate, that's not happening. He was able to find and watch the pitch all the way in and basically be able to shoot it the other way, whereas if you bring it in, he doesn't have that time to react. And basically compare that to the up and in sinker that he threw to Solarte, which ended in a 65 mile an hour ground out to the first baseman. If you locate it in, it's going to be a lot better than locating it out. Now, that's only a 2-pitch sample size, I understand, but I already talked about the weighted on base averages and the exit velocities. It shows in the data that is a very large sample size. It is a league-wide sample size that the outside sinker is hit for more success than the inside sinker. So basically, what I want to talk about now are some of the comments. One from Ben Cerruti, who's been a longtime reader of mine, and I really appreciate the things that he says, and I appreciate his baseball knowledge. He basically said that he wanted me to compare Carlos to other pitchers his age. There's only been 9 pitchers, and he was the one who pulled this data, that have thrown 450 innings when are still under the age of 26. Carlos is now 26, but he was under the age of 26 last season. And there isn't a pitcher out there that's got a better future than Carlos Martinez. Yes, Garrett Cole has produced one more win above replacement than Martinez, but he's trending down, whereas Martinez is trending up. So it doesn't really fit into the solving Carlos Martinez versus lefties, but it's able to show just how valuable he's been and just how valuable he will continue to be for the Cardinals. The second one the second comment on the article specifically was about if Carlos can start throwing more sliders versus lefties, if that can be a successful repertoire or a successful approach. And yeah, I think it can, but at the same time, I think if he throws too many sliders, they're going to be able to sit on it a little bit. I love the backdoor slider to lefties. I absolutely love the backdoor slider. I've written about it before. But again, if he continues to just throw that over and over and over again, they're going to be able to lay off the back foot slider, which is basically what Andrew Miller's been able, why he's been able to be so successful against righties. They'll lay off that, and then they'll be able to shoot that backdoor slider to left field, similar to what they've been doing with the sinker located on the outside corner. So while I think he could have some success throwing more sliders, he already throws a decent amount against them. I think the sinker is able to set up the slider. I think the sinker is able to keep hitters away from sitting on, basically sitting on the slider. So then another question that was asked, this one was on Twitter, was by Ben Humphrey, or BGH, who used to be the site manager at Viva Alberto's. He asked me what was Carlos Martinez's sexiest pitch. That's very tough for me to answer because I've always been a huge fan of Carlos Martinez's changeup, but I truly believe that his sexiest pitch, if you use the true definition of that word, is his slider. It's able to make right-handers look silly. It's able to make left-handers look silly, both on taking pitches, giving up on pitches, and then making their swings look terrible. It's one of those pitches that you can see a batter giving up on so early out of the hand only for it to break over the plate, or a batter swinging at it thinking it's down sinker down the middle and it breaks a foot off the plate. An Andrew McCutchen swing comes to mind on that one. Andrew McCutchen is one of the best hitters in the league, and yet Carlos Martinez, as you'd expect, all the success he's had against righties has been able to make him look downright silly. Then another comment or tweet was about his inconsistency, thinking that that's the next step forward for Carlos Martinez to be considered in the Cy Young conversations or consider a perennial all-star. I think that's a little bit overblown. Zach Gifford, another one of the writers at Birds on the Black, wrote an article last year for the Intrepid STL that basically showed that Carlos Martinez really isn't that inconsistent. I think, at least compared to other pitchers, he's a top 20 pitcher, top 25 pitcher regardless. Yes, he has his bad starts, but that's always going to happen. I think he definitely could be more consistent going forward, but that you expect, or you want that of every pitcher. So it's hard to pin it on him specifically when I think he's just as consistent or inconsistent in this manner as most other pitchers in the league. Lastly, I want to thank you all for listening in or watching in on this post. It was a little rough, I admit that, but I hope that it serves as a good complement to my article that I wrote. I want to, hopefully we get some more questions for the next one, because there weren't really that many questions asked on this one. So I hope you have a great night, and I hope we can see Carlos Martinez take that next step forward next year. Thanks.